Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Rayot Knives Coyote. First off, though, I want to thank Blade HQ for helping me grab one of these guys, as well as my Patreon patrons who make the channel possible. Thank you all very, very much for that. Next thing, let's do some size comparison real quick. This guy is actually not particularly small, although it's not huge either. Here it is against the Spyderco PM2, and we see here in terms of handle, they're actually pretty similar, and in terms of sharpened blade length as well, but this guy's actually a little bit on the thicker side. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2, as well as the Spyderco Delica, and so we see here, this is not a tiny knife. It's kind of in that intermediate size range right there. Next thing, this guy is a design by Emmanuel Lebrun. I'm sorry, I've probably butchered your name there, Emmanuel, but nonetheless, a very, very interesting knife, and a maker who I haven't really seen much out of, but certainly does some cool stuff, and so I appreciate that very much. It is a knife produced by Rayot, and Rayot is a Chinese company that has been doing some really amazing work lately. And then finally, here's the price, just before anyone goes crazy. Oh my God, $350 is the price of this pocket knife. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting knife. So on the good side, to start with, the blade on this guy is interesting for sure. It is an M390 blade, and M390 is, if not one of the best steels out there, if not the best steel out there, it's one of the best, right? It's a really solid choice for everyday carry. It has a reasonably thin edge, which I appreciate very much, and it does have a recurve that I think is going to appeal to a lot of people, although it's definitely going to be a factor in some situations. Next thing, I gotta say, the carbon fiber here looks good. This carbon fiber that is very much sheet-based, you can kind of see that as you go deeper into it, as this is contoured, because, by the way, this is contoured. This is not a flat surface. There is a rounding to this, but you see the contouring is revealed in the carbon fiber itself. And that is a trick that looks really good with good carbon fiber and would have looked really bad had they not been using the good stuff. So I appreciate them using a great carbon fiber here. Next thing, the action on this is just exactly where you want it to be. Flip it open, absolutely no problem. I appreciate that very much, and Rayot is a company that is very, very good at doing actions right. So this has an action that is absolutely excellent. I cannot argue with this action in any particular way, shape, or form. And then finally, on the good side, the details are here. And I'll kind of zoom in and show you a little bit some of these details here. One of the things that you're going to notice right off the bat is this pivot, which I think is unique. I don't know that I've seen this pivot elsewhere in the knife world, and I think it's actually a pivot collar, was it? I don't know. Either way, it's a pivot. It's very, very, it's good looking, right? It has just an excellent style to it, and I think it adds something to a knife that has already got a little bit of coolness to it. I also appreciate very much the inlay work here. On this side, it is just straightforwardly an inlay. We can see here there are no gaps. In fact, you run your finger across this, and aside from a change in texture, you just don't detect the presence of that inlay there, which is not nothing. I appreciate that very much, and especially having it come wrap around the pivot here. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Well, technically wrap under the pivot, but still, the inlay work is very nice. The lanyard hole on this is the very best thing a lanyard hole can be, which is absent, basically. I appreciate that very much. You can just barely see that there is a lanyard hole in the bottom there, and you can use it if you need it to, but otherwise you don't need it, and it doesn't end up, screwing up the aesthetics of the knife otherwise, so that's a beautiful thing. I gotta say, I like the clip end very much because it comes down to a nice slope, which means this is, gonna ride a little bit better in the pocket and just feel a little bit better in the hand. Speaking of the back here, the back spacer, look at this. This is nice. With a little bit of shouldering on the back spacer here, with a little bit of knurling, basically. I don't know if it technically is knurling because it's not applied in that way, but the effect is definitely knurly, as opposed to gnarly, although I'd say it's also gnarly. But it is just a very, very nice back spacer here, and honestly, just other little details, like if we look at this surface right here, this is an exact fit to the handle, this is an exact fit to the handle, this slope continues right to here. This is just somebody who spent a lot of time thinking about this knife and did the design very well. And then the symmetry on both sides here, I gotta say, the details are absolutely there. This is a very well-designed knife. And so to me, all of that is the good here. It's got very nice details. It's got great action, great carbon fiber, a very nice blade. On the great side, to me, it's just really well made, right? This is a knife that is very much aesthetically focused, I would argue. And, this is a knife that would be very, very easy to do badly, I think. I can picture no shortage of trouble with inlay fitment. I can picture no shortage of trouble with machining this here, with the clip, with all of these. There are so many things that could have very easily gone wrong, and that as somebody who's had a lot of knives across my table, I've seen people do pretty much all of these things badly, and none of them were done badly. And that sounds like it's damning by faint praise, but it really isn't. This knife is not nothing to produce. This knife is actually very impressively done, and to execute this design, which I think is unique and has its own style this well, is very impressive to me. This is really well done, and this is Rayot doing subtle work, but very, very good work. And this reminds me why so many makers respect Rayot's work a great deal. I'm very, very impressed with the way that they've executed this really seemingly simple at first, but very complicated design. So to me, that's what's great here, is this is just beautifully done. On the bad side, this is pricey. $350 is a bunch of cash, right? This is excellently done, absolutely, but I want to see Rayot pushing value rather than resting on their laurels, that is. Resting on their loyal customers' wallets. I don't know. But anyways, $350 is a fair chunk of change. I'm not saying they're ripping my face off here, but I am definitely saying that that's a price that I just don't love. I'd like to see them continue to push those things down, because Rayot got where they are by delivering great value. And even when they're doing great work like this, I think they can push that value front a little bit more. Next thing, it is definitely a thick and heavy knife here. I'll go ahead and first off, I'll just measure it out here. And what we're going to see here is this is coming in, maybe 1.4 centimeters or... oh, what dumbness is that? It's more than half an inch, and if you include the clip, oh boy, yeah, it's a thick one, right? And then if we put this guy on a scale here, this is coming in at 3.81 ounces for, let's see, the blade length here. Yeah, coming in for about 3.25, that is, inches of blade. Yeah. It's a little big. It's a little heavy, a little thick in the pocket. This is a little bit on the beefy side. Next thing, this guy has a recurve in the blade, and it is a strong recurve, right? And I mean that little area right here where it goes concave. Now, I am constantly complaining about non-committal recurves where the maker didn't really go for it. This, they went for it, right? This is a recurve. You can see it from a distance, and it's a part of the design. The problem with recurves is just that it's going to limit very much your options in terms of sharpening. You are not going to be able to sharpen this on a flat bench stone necessarily, or at least you're going to need very fancy technique, and instead you're going to want to use like a rod-based sharpening system, so that is a downside for many people, although to be fair, I don't see this being something that gets a lot of, like daily pocket use for a lot of folks, although it could, certainly. Next thing, the ergos on this guy are not amazing, right? You are a little bit far away from the blade here with no real good way to choke up. The carbon fiber overhang here, actually, although it looks quite nice, and by the way, serves as an over-travel stop, preventing you from pushing the lock bar too far in this direction, but that's definitely not the most comfortable thing in the world, and even the clip on it is a little bit, pushing up, poking out there. This is definitely favoring the eye over the hand, and even like this surface here, it's definitely favoring the eye over the hand. And then finally on the bad side, the back corner of this guy, unfortunately, anytime you have a sharp back corner here, tends to just push into your hand right here as you're deploying it. This knife is not the most comfortable thing in the world to deploy as a result of that. This is, like I said, definitely built for the eye more than for the hand. So to me, all of that is the bad, is that it's got that strong back corner here, and the ergos on the whole aren't that great. It's got a strong recurve. It is very thick and heavy, and it is very pricey. The ugly front, I don't see anything particularly ugly here, so let's go into the final conclusion, which is that this is a beautiful knife, really, above all else, right? It's got a nice blade, nice materials, nice action, unique details and styling, and just execution that is really, really good. All that does come at a cost, with a pretty high price, with a bit of thickness, with a recurve, and ergonomics that definitely favor the eye over the hand. I would argue that, like I said, this is sort of a fashion-forward knife. And ultimately, that's kind of my feelings. This is a knife that's really nice aesthetically, right? And in terms of build, really, really nice. As a collector, it's really hard to argue with this. This is a really nice piece of knife making, and it's a really nice piece of knife design. Particularly if you love this design, you're probably going to love it. And you know what? It works fine for everyday life. I carried it. I used it. It was okay. In the hand, was it my favorite thing? If I'm breaking down 50 things of cardboard, am I going to be grabbing this bad boy with the thick blade stock? No, absolutely not. But at the same time, you know what, it works. But that said, I still can't help but feel like there's a little bit of a triumph of form over function here. Given the recurve, the ergos, the thickness, it honestly feels like a knife that's been designed for collectors and designed for a knife case more than it's been designed for the pocket, more than it's designed for your EDC. You know, it'll work, but I think there are some other things out there that'll work a little bit better. And so I think this one kind of comes down to aesthetics. If the design or the price tag are leaving you cold, then honestly, I wouldn't bother. But if you're really picking up what the designer's putting down here, then I think this little coyote could be howling your name. Anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.